afternoon, everyone. Good night in Israel. This is our fourth program for the year, and I'm very happy that we are in collaboration, the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce, the Consulate General of Israel in New England, Israeli Economic Mission in North America, and Innovation Newport as partners. Today we have Dr. Nir Tsuk. He is in Israel now, and of course, as always, we'll hear words of wisdom. We're very honored that Anat Katz will be again in our program. She's Economic Minister to North America. Thank you, Anat. I know that you're busy, so we really appreciate your time with us. We will have Mollie Williams, and Mollie is a new Director of Innovation Newport. I'm very excited about it. I met her a couple of weeks ago, and I think she is amazing and will be great. And then last but not least, we have Estefan Owens. He's from Newport, and he was recently, he's the owner of Gyro Robotics, and he's a winner of Startup Showcase and QuickPitch at the Innovation Newport. So we'll hear a little bit about the technologies that's coming from Newport. So with that said, Anat, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Avi. Thank you so much for having me again at the program. I think it's really an honor for me to be present here. I think, you know, now we're in November. This is almost December, so I think that everybody is pretty much looking back at 2021. Summarizing 2021, looking forward to 2022. So, you know, in the same spirit. First of all, I think it's very easy to say that 2021 has been much significantly much more better. I know that you're not supposed to say this in English, more better, but I will, than 2020. I think pretty much in all aspects, right? I mean, it goes without saying, 2020, we went into the crisis. 2021 marks our exit, hopefully. I'm saying this very cautiously, but, you know, at least our way out of the crisis. We started seeing more people in person, not just over Zoom, you know, and that's great. And in terms of what's happening in business, well, I'm based in New York, and it seems as though things are really starting to explode here. People are coming back to the city. The city is super vibrant, and in terms of the business sector, it feels as though people are extremely excited to do business, to do much more. In terms of Israel, and I'm sure that Neil will talk, you know, about this after me, so I don't want to take away anything that Nir has prepared. Though I know that he is always prepared for every scenario, and he can, you know, throw figures and ideas and trends, you know, very easily. But I think that we all know Israeli startups have been basically doing the unimaginable, making this into a reality with a staggering number of 74 unicorns. If you look only at the first half of 2021, specifically in the cyber sector, and we'll take this as an example, we had 7 unicorns in cybersecurity, representing 1/3 of the total amount of cyber unicorns worldwide. The cyber industry in Israel basically attracted 40% of international investment into cybersecurity. And that's just Israel, where 0.2% of the world population. And I can go on and on and on, but I think that Neil will do a much better job than me in describing all of this. I think that the main question for all of us now is really what's next. A very simplified answer would be everything of anything, convergence, and I think that we touched on this a little bit in the last session. Things are coming together, and the boundaries between sectors are becoming much more blurry because things are coming together. And I think that since there's a lot of innovation and many different breakthroughs, the main question is not what is it that we can do, but what is it that we should be doing. There are a number of very meaningful challenges that I think that we all face as citizens of the world. The climate change issue, which I think is I can't even begin to say how big a challenge that is. And I think that the disappointment of the younger generation, of all of us of the way that we have conducted ourselves and of the way and the slow way that we're addressing the challenge, perhaps not necessarily allocating enough resources to secure a good future to them. And I think, you know, if I were to recommend a path for 2022 and beyond, I think that I would want at least to see it as a year of doing well by doing good. There are health challenges, there are environmental challenges, there are social challenges, you know, plenty of them. I think that we should all focus not only on what we do best, but how we can harness this into something good. And with that, I leave it to Nir to tell us all exactly how we're going to be able to do it.
Thank you, Anat. Nir, it's all yours.
No, I think she stole my thunder and light. I have nothing more to say.
Okay, I'll close the program.
Yeah, we should, exactly. We should do Mollie and Ian. I'll just sit here and smile. No, I mean, with all these numbers, the 74 unicorns and cyber and whatever, reality is slightly more nuanced, right, and complex. First of all, we should celebrate we have a budget. I know in other countries, people take it to be an annual normal thing, but for us, it's a celebration. After 3.5 years, the government, and Anat, you don't have to say anything, right? You represent the government, any kind of government. The government thought it might be a good idea to have a paper, a plan for the market and the country for the year ahead. And it's nice because, you know, you see what's important and what's not in terms of priorities. We should celebrate that. Talking about the meta, right, or the mega trends, even before talking about high tech, I think we managed to get COVID somehow under control. We should be, right, we should be careful. We shouldn't celebrate too early. We see what happens in Austria or in Germany nowadays. But it seems like there was something about policy and vaccination, and we got it right for now. So we should feel proud and happy about that, even though I've heard that there's a new variant called Mu, which is on its way, right after Delta and Delta, whatever. I think by the time we run out of Greek letters, we will have to go back to Chinese letters, and then we have, you know, thousands of pictograms. But I think it's time to talk. Definitely, a friend of mine said that the real vaccine to COVID is probably technology, which is an interesting take on things, because it's and this friend, a friend of mine, he gave a talk at one of my courses 2 days ago, and he said, imagine what would have happened had Corona hit us 20 years ago, right? In terms of internet, in terms of distant learning, in terms of commerce, in terms of education, in terms of entertainment. Without all these technology solutions, we would have been somewhere very different. And I guess because of that, the situation that Anat has just described is surprising, but not surprising. Everything is booming. Not everything is booming, technology is booming, right? Because we realize how important, if we didn't realize how important technology was beforehand, we realize now that technology is the solution, but also the problem. It's nice to see how every time we talk about cyber, but also about Pegasus and NSO and interesting things that infiltrate this rosy picture. But again, talking about rosy, I mean, the Israeli technology sector hasn't known a better day, better era. I saw that by figures of, and again, Anat, as usual, stole some of my figures, but some of my own figures show that we're talking about investment of more than $20 billion by now in Israeli high tech, even before the end of the year. This is crazy. I mean, and you see the repercussions. Of course, more technology is being exported, but we see, it's interesting to see the internal influence of all these things. I think the shekel is now either one of the strongest or the strongest currency in the world, which is a good thing or a bad thing, depends. You see real estate prices in my city, Tel Aviv, are soaring even more than in places like New York or Sydney. Most of my friends are leaving whatever jobs they have and go and work for high tech. Again, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Depends. A friend of mine is a Porsche dealer in Israel, and apparently, again, looking at numbers, there was an increase of almost 200% in selling Porsche in Israel in the past year. Is it good? Is it bad? Depends. Everything is definitely booming after Corona. The question about what's next, people are calling me. I don't know. It's nice to see how the digital transformation is moving forward. And again, in Israel more than in other places because technology is so strong. And as people talk about digital transformation, you know, people don't go backwards, right? So it will be interesting to see when things are getting back to normal, right? And things are getting back to normal. There was the night marathon in Tel Aviv last night here next to my place, 20,000 people. It felt almost as good as it was in 2019, but now we are post-COVID, right? And I wonder, you know, when people talk about crisis, they talk about crisis and technological revolutions that come right after them. And I don't have to mention Second World War with rockets and X-ray and whatever, but talking about social revolutions, right? I mean, when in some of my classes, when I talk about one of the main achievements of Second World War, which was probably the last cataclysmic world-scale crisis, I talk about the boost it gave to feminism, right? If you look at one single event that helped feminism more than anything else, it was Second World War. Avi, let's try to make sure we meet here in 10 years' time and look back at what happened after COVID and see the patterns afterwards.
You know, it's easier for you. For me, it's harder to commit because of my age. So I'll try.
No, we already established the fact that I'm closer to Anat's son's age than anything else. So
even though Kira Radinsky just announced that the person that will live until 200 years old was just born, so maybe there is hope for me.
All this is to say, the best of time, the worst of time, more best than worse. It's nice to be in Israel because it seems like, and again, I read an interesting article of McKinsey, and McKinsey is working extra hours trying to predict and also report the trends that happen right now. So they talk about companies, but it's also relevant to societies and countries. They say that companies which invest in innovation during crisis are outperforming afterwards, right? Companies which invest in innovation during the crisis are outperforming and outnumbering and out whatever other companies afterwards. It's interesting to do this comparison between nations, not only between companies. Apologies for being too philosophical today, but since Anat stole my numbers, I try to be slightly heavier and more historical than before. That's it for today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have a couple of questions you before, and then later we'll learn more questions. You said that $20 billion was invested by VCs in Israeli companies. Do you know the ratio between foreign money and domestic? Is there a trend of more domestic money as the economy is better, or it's still a lot of the foreign money that comes in?
The short answer is yes. No, seriously, yes. There's more money altogether. There's more local money because there's more money. I think the last figure I saw, the division between local and foreign, I think of the 20 billion, 1/4, which is impressive, 1/4 is local and 3/4 are foreign. And the fact that both Anat and Annette are nodding makes me feel comfortable with the numbers I just made up. No, I didn't make them up.
It's roughly about that, I think. I saw recently a report by IVC that basically looked at the trend for the past few years, and what you could see is that, in fact, what Neil was saying is true. There's more money, we know that, we see that, and both columns basically grow, but obviously there's much more foreign funding, coming into Israel just because there's much more of it. Right.
And again, I'm cutting a nut. It must be, I mean, Israeli.
This was the promise. This was the promise.
Yeah, we have to deliver. It's the perfect storm because of technology and COVID and crisis and the availability of lots of cheap money, which looks where to go. It's almost too good to be true. People talk about the bubble. Again, time will tell.
So one more quick question before we move to the Newport team. What is the areas in Israel that are really the hottest in trends of innovation? If you can, Anat and Nir, mention a couple of them that come to mind.
Yeah.
I want to follow up on what, oh, sorry, Anat.
No, and we can complement each other. I'll just steal what you had to say and then you come up with more. It's more convenient for me this way, but I think that we're seeing a lot of cybersecurity, a lot of fintech, a lot of anything that is IT related. So a lot that has to do with data, with cloud, with management software, these types of things, supposedly boring, supposedly sexy, very difficult to deliver in this type of forum, but we're seeing more and more of those. And if you look at unicorns, some are those types of solutions, because they have very, very broad applications, and many of them are really disruptive. Many of them are really groundbreaking. At the same time, I think that as we mentioned also in the past episode, because you see a lot of convergence, you have these like new areas. Food tech is picking up so much, all the alternative proteins, research and development around this. This is because it goes along well, with the food challenge in the world, food scarcity and environmental issues, all coupled kind of together at the same time. So, this is a super interesting sector that we see a lot of interest in, and different really types of technologies such as retail tech technologies, e-commerce technologies, really everything alongside security is the bread and butter and other things. And if I missed whichever tiny, small sector, less noticeceable, this is what we have here.
10 seconds before we move to Newport.
Yeah, first of all, bless you, Richard. Long life and good health. Anat, there's a nice division of labor between Anat and myself. Anat represents the government, so everything is amazing and shiny, and Zionism is the best, and Israel is the coolest ever. Me from academia, not enough startups in climate tech. Not enough. Less than 9%, which is nothing. The next big thing is probably not cyber or fintech, but climate, and Israel is lagging behind. We may need some help from Rhode Island.
Okay, so
segue.
So with that said, great, Anat and Nir, thank you, and stay, of course, because in the end we might run. Question as always, we might stay longer because it's just so exciting. And Mollie, it's all yours. And again, Mollie Williams is running Innovation Newport, and take it from here, Mollie.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on to connect with you all. As Avi said, I started here in April, actually. I work for the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce, and I'm the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So my role will be to foster the ecosystem, for entrepreneurial ecosystem in the Greater Newport area. Specifically, I'm focused on Innovate Newport right now, which is, it's a space, it's a co-working space. It's a beautiful facility. We have members and tenants. We also serve, as a connector, as a convener. So I'm really in charge of programming and events and strategic partners. I'm bringing people together to collaborate, to support entrepreneurs, and definitely to have a focus on the blue economy here. Which there's a lot happening in that space, and I've had so much fun, like just meeting people and learning about what's happening, and networking and collaborating, and look forward to the growth ahead. I'm really excited to actually introduce Ian here, because one of the events we just had was a startup showcase and QuickPitch. This was part of Rhode Island Startup Week, which is the first ever Rhode Island Startup Week, put on by Rhode. And Annette Tanti is on this call, and she is the director of Rhode, which is an innovation hub here in Rhode Island. And she and her team organized an incredible week's worth of events and exciting events and programming. And we were just one of those events. We held one of those events here. We had about 24 exhibitors. 12 of those exhibitors participated in the QuickPitch portion of the program. So they were startups in a variety of spaces. So we had, Red Beetle, which was a group designing an app for college students to be able to secure real estate rentals and stuff just on with their phone. We had Pop-Up Rhode, which is a startup that's kind of like Airbnb for pop-up markets. We have Flux Marine and Ocean State Shields and Gyro Robotics, which Ian is the owner of. And so each of the 12 exhibitors did a 3-minute pitch that they kind of told their story about their startup, about what their goals were, and what they would use the prize package for if they were to win the contest. So it was really exciting and fun, and hope to do many more of those, as well as design other programming that supports startups in the region. So I'd love to just turn it over now to Ian, Estefan-Owen, who is the owner of Gyro Robotics. I think you'll find his story and his company really exciting, and I know he's grabbed the attention of many around here. And we're really fortunate to have him be working right out of Innovate Newport. So again, thank you for having me, and I really hope to collaborate with you all in the future.
Thank you, Mollie. Ian, you will be you co-host now, so you can share your screen. And I want to mention Innovation Week. Again, Anat Katz and the team did a great job. This year we had 2 events with Israel. One, basically our program, Little State Big Innovation, and the other one, the first event in 2 years in person with the governor, with the Consul General to New England, and it was about digital device and medical device innovation. So hopefully next year we'll have more Israeli companies participating. And Ian, it's all yours. And I know Ian told me earlier he's looking perhaps to collaborate with Israelis on technology. So we will later publish it. So perhaps we can find him partners if it's a Bird Foundation through Bird and other. Ian, it's all yours.
Hey, thanks, Avi. And thanks for the introduction there, Mollie. The whole RI Hub week was fantastic. And congratulations to the team for pulling together what was incredibly helpful for entrepreneurs and founders like myself. So my full name is Ian Estefan-Owen. I'm the CEO of Gyro Robotics. I co-founded it with my partner, Jason Webster, who's the CTO. We started in December 2020. What an awesome time to start a company, right? Smack bang in the middle of a global pandemic. But you know what? It's actually worked out really well. I'll come on to that in a bit later. But let me tell you a bit more about why we started the company, where our products and services are based on high-speed, micro-sized, very low-cost aquatic data collection systems using robots that can work in pods of 1 to 20 vehicles. I want us all to imagine a world where we could predict with a high degree of certainty how climate change is going to impact us at the global, the national, the regional, and even a town level, and that we actually believed that prediction. About 40% of the population live in coastal regions. Our food supplies, trade, economic infrastructure, it all depends on these communities thriving and being strong. We need to keep them safe from the effects of climate change, as well as working to reduce the rate of climate change. So COP26, I think, is focused on, let's figure out how we can not screw this up even more. I'm not sure they're succeeding in that area. But imagine a world, if we can, where we all work together to harness our collective intellect and resources to really start to dig deep and plan how we are going to address the impacts of climate change, because it is going to happen. And that planning needs to happen at the macro level, and it needs to happen at the micro level. Yesterday, I was at a Blue Tech event that was part of a mass challenge program in collaboration with a company called MITRE. You may have heard of it. And Senator Elizabeth Warren was speaking at that event. You may remember her. She was one of the presidential candidates that didn't quite make it, right? She described the ocean as the governor and the flywheel of our climate. For those of you that kind of remember old cars, they had like big flywheels and those governors to make them not go too fast. That's what the ocean does. It's such a great description. The more that we can understand about how our oceans, and indeed all our waterways, right, our estuaries, our lakes, our rivers, our marshlands, they all are impacted by climate change and all provide an impact to climate change. We need to understand what's happening there in order to keep those coastal communities safe. So Gyro Robotics, we imagine a world where we can collect aquatic data at a scale that has never been achieved before. And in order to do that, it has to be done in a way that is an order of magnitude less expensive and less complex than it is today. Aquatic data collection and survey systems are incredibly expensive, incredibly hard to operate, and often dangerous to launch and recover because of their size and the fact that you need a ship, etc., to get them in the water. So to turn that into a reality, we have designed and invented the Jaia platform and data collection system because we want to measure what is happening in our oceans and provide that to academia, for research, for STEM programs where schools can learn about robotics, carry out environmental monitoring. And it also is a dual use system, right? So it's got applications that can both help us better understand what's happening with climate change and where that's going. But because of the versatility of the system, it can actually help us on a dual use basis. So it has defense applications as well. Just to give you a little bit of a taster, what the Jaia bots do by working in pods of between 1 and 20 vehicles is that they can collect data at scale over really wide areas. And at the cost, the price that we charge for these systems, because we've designed them to be inexpensive, but highly versatile, at less than $10,000 each, we can have 10 vehicles working as a team for $100,000 to a customer, which compared to what is out there at the moment, aquatic data collection, really is, incredibly, it's eye-wateringly less expensive. So as you can see here, the Jaia bots, the modes of operation, they travel super fast, around 10 knots on the surface of the water. They can travel underneath the water at prescribed depths, and they do what's called vertical profile dives throughout the water column down to depths of 100 meters. In terms of range, right, they're smaller. I've got one in the car. I should have brought it in to show you. Maybe I'll do that now before the end of this. They're literally 28 inches long, and they can be thrown into the ocean through the surf zone, off a boat, off a pier, wherever you need to collect the data. So as you can see, they're pretty darn cool. And the software is open source, right? So we can have people building on our platform, putting more artificial intelligence, more machine learning applications that integrate with our Moose IDP and ROS wrappers around the GobiSoft middleware. You can go to our website, you can look at that software today. So we're pretty evangelistic in that front. Where we are as a business right now, we are looking for pre-seed funding and are actively courting a number of potential investment sources, as well as having multiple conversations with departments of the US Navy, departments of the US Army Corps of Engineers, the US Geological Survey team, and also working with a local company to integrate an acoustic sensor onto the vehicle so we can help detect marine mammals, which leads us into the offshore renewable market, where that's a mandated requirement. When they're surveying, building and operating the wind farms, they need to be checking, especially on the East Coast. We have such a problem with the right whales in terms of them becoming extinct. We need to know when they're in the area so we can stop operations. I'd love to turn it over to you guys if you've got any questions.
Thank you, Ian. if you just let me share my screen.
Yeah, stop that.
Anybody have a quick question? We getting close to the end, but I think one of the things that we hope that this program will help is to spread the word of your work in Israel about the work of potential collaboration. Mollie, I hope also we're going to help to connect the ecosystem of Newport that's very concerned about global warming, very concerned about ocean technology, and again, to be the conduit through programs like this to connect the Israeli ecosystem. So quick question, quick summary from Anat, Nir, Mollie, and Ian, and thank you. And any comments that you would like to say before we, I'm turning over to the end. So there is no comment. So I will have a couple.
I have a question. Can I ask a quick question?
No. It's not a quick. It's no question for the audience at that point. It's just you can send them. It's just for the speakers at that point. So
Avi, I have one request specifically. Right?
Go ahead.
One of the things that we are really because our platform is very versatile, right? So if you've got a micro-sized sensor, it will fit on our platform. So if there are companies in Israel that are working on sensors that are being miniaturized, that have an aquatic or climate monitoring use, we'd love to hear from them.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure Anat, she will help us to find companies in the field because she's from the Department of Commerce from Israel and Ministry of Commerce, and we definitely will help you with that. I just want to thank again to Nir, to Anat, to Mollie, and to Ian for a fantastic call. I just want to mention that next week on Wednesday, we have another event with the last one for our program, Little State, Big Innovation. Last one for 2021. It will be a special edition, 1.5 hours. We have some extra companies. Highly recommend to participate, to listen in. And then I'm very happy that finally we can travel again. December 23rd, we'll have an event in Israel in person. So keep an eye on that. We'll start to celebrate our 5 years. And again, I would like to thank our speakers, to our partners, the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce, the Consulate General of Israel in New England, Israel Economic Mission in North America, Innovation Newport, and our next program will be sometime in February next year. So thank you again, everybody. Good night in Israel, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Avi. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.